What happens to creatine when it spends weeks inside a gummy? That question matters more than it might seem, because creatine's stability depends on its environment, specifically on water activity, pH, and temperature. In a dry powder, creatine is stable for years. In a humid, slightly acidic, room temperature gummy matrix, the picture is more complex. Creatine gummies represent the newest major format innovation in the creatine category. Driven by the supplement industry's observation that gummy vitamins have taken a substantial share of the vitamin and mineral market. The reasoning is sound from a marketing perspective. People who struggle to consistently take supplements often find gummy formats more appealing and easier to maintain as a habit. If a gummy format gets someone to take creatine daily when powder did not, the format has delivered real value. The creatine content per gummy is typically 1 to 2 grams per piece, meaning a 5-gram daily dose requires 3 to 5 gummies. This is manageable, and the serving size is less of an issue than with capsules. The calories from the gummy matrix, now gelatin, sweeteners, flavors, are modest per serving, though people tracking macros precisely should account for them. The stability concern is genuine and not yet fully resolved in the published literature. Gummies have higher water activity than dry powder. They contain moisture by design. Creatine in the presence of water can undergo the spontaneous conversion to creatinine, particularly in mildly acidic conditions. Gummy formulations are typically pH buffered to resist this, and water activity is controlled through ingredient ratios. But the question of how much creatine remains intact versus has converted to creatinine, after 6 months on a shelf at ambient temperature, has not been answered in independent peer-reviewed research for commercial gummy products. Some manufacturers have published internal stability data showing acceptable creatine retention across stated shelf life. Independent verification of those claims, testing products at the end of their shelf life under real storage conditions, is limited. The consumer cannot assess this at point of purchase. The cost premium for gummy creatine is significant. A 5-gram creatine dose delivered via gummies typically costs 3 to 5 times more than the same dose from bulk monohydrate powder. The sugar content in many gummy formulations is also something to consider. Not a meaningful caloric contribution per serving, but worth noting for people who are minimizing added sugar intake. Where creatine gummies genuinely excel is habit formation. If the barrier to consistent supplementation is the hassle or unpleasantness of powders and capsules, and if a gummy format reliably produces daily intake where other formats have failed, the cost premium is justified by the compliance benefit. A supplement taken reliably at a higher cost beats a supplement taken irregularly at a lower cost. For people who already supplement creatine consistently with powder or capsules and are considering switching for novelty, the case is weak. There is no evidence that gummy delivery produces better muscle loading outcomes. The form does not change the physiology. The only question is consistency. And if your current format is working, the premium is unnecessary. The water activity argument about gummy stability deserves more precision. Water activity, denoted AWI, measures the availability of water in a product for chemical reactions. Pure water has an AW of 1. Dried powder has an AW approaching 0. Gummies typically have AW values in the range of 0.5 to 0.7, depending on their sugar and polyol content. At these water activity levels, chemical reactions, including creatine cyclisation, proceed more slowly than an aqueous solution, but faster than in a dry powder state. Temperature compounds the issue. Products stored in hot environments, supply chain transport, shelves in warm retail spaces, cars during summer, experience accelerated creatine to creatinine conversion, even at gummy water activity levels. Products marketed as shelf-stable at room temperature may perform differently in real-world storage conditions than in the controlled conditions under which stability testing was conducted. The comparison to gummy vitamins is instructive but imperfect. Vitamins like C and B12 also degrade in gummy formats relative to dry tablet forms. This is known and documented. Manufacturers accept this degradation and account for it by adding excess vitamin content at manufacture. so the product is in specification at the end of its shelf life despite some degradation. Whether creatine gummy manufacturers use the same approach, supplementing creatine content to compensate for expected degradation, is not consistently disclosed on labels.